If you didn't understand before, I hope you understand now. Because you're now listening to the We Talking podcast brought to you by Island Girl Team. This podcast, we are literally talking about every and anything with your girl, Kamilah Gumbs. So subscribe from wherever you get your podcast and get ready to talk. Welcome to season 2, episode 10 of the We Talking podcast, and I'm your host, Kamilah Gumbs. So today we have Tori Carter and Nian Fleming to discuss the status of marketing, human resources, and politics within the Kingdom of the Netherlands and the importance of all three fields working together to improve the country's development. But before we go into our conversation today, here are some brief bios on our guests. So Tori is a 22-year-old master's student from Sint Maarten. She did her bachelor's in marketing and now is pursuing her master's in content and media strategy. Tori has a passion for content creation and intends to further her career in this field. During her spare time, Tori enjoys going out to restaurants as she is a foodie. She also enjoys streetwear fashion as well. She has a strong passion for arts and all things creative. Nian has a Jamaican and Sint Maarten background, and she majored in human resource management with honors in finance and management. Currently, she works as a recruitment coordinator for an online collaboration tool. Her interests lie in fashion, political history, cooking, and spending time with her friends and family. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Awesome. So we're going to jump straight into our question today. And so we have three main questions that we're going to discuss. So I guess to just bring us into the conversation, all three of us in the conversation, we've all decided to pursue our tertiary education in various fields. So what inspired and motivated you to go into the professional fields of marketing, so for Tori, and human resources for Nian, and key lessons that you learned about these professions? So anyone can go first.
You want to start, Nian, or should I?
You should start. You can start.
Okay. So I decided to study marketing basically because I have a strong passion for art and business. And I really sat for a long time and thought, like, what's going to be a career that has a combination of that, which made me conclude that marketing is the best for me. And, you know, it definitely was a great choice. It's definitely a choice I do not regret. I am very passionate about marketing. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned about marketing is how fast-paced and constantly changing it is. That's something I didn't actually prepare for or know before entering the field. And it's something that actually makes me very happy because I'm a person, I don't like to be stagnant. And being in a career where I know that I'll constantly be learning and unlearning and relearning new things is like, yeah, just great for me. So I think that's like one of the biggest things.
Awesome, Nian.
I think for me, going into HR, like I knew at age, like when I was 17 that this is what I wanted to do, and I haven't changed my mind. And what's always brought me back to why I want to be in HR or have a career in HR is because I'm so interested, or it actually fascinates me how people and work, how that the world of work and people coordinate, or how it interacts with each other, what makes people want to come to work, what motivates them to come to work, and also how can you get the best people to work for you? So that's also one of the things that fascinated me about HR since I was 17. I think that one of the things, or the biggest things that I've learned about HR, I think most coming from doing my thesis about COVID, is that as much as people underestimate HR, it's something that is really important, because without people, a business does not run. Whether or not you have like an online business or a factory or anything like that, without people, your business can't run. And like, if you need to know how to be able to, as a business owner or as a manager, you need to be able to know, how do I get the most productivity out of my people, and for my people to be most effective to get the end result that I desire. And I think that I learned that a lot through working in during the pandemic as well. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned.
Awesome. And so as we take like those lessons and everything, I guess that puts me into our next question. So, we're always learning in our professions, we're always doing work. And so as we currently look at the state of the kingdom, and especially with St. Maarten within these sectors, how do you think we can improve and maintain these sectors to ensure that they are successful?
I think when you talk about the kingdom, like I've worked in the Netherlands and I've also worked in Sint Maarten. I haven't worked any other islands in the kingdom. But what I can say for the Caribbean part, because I've worked on Sint Maarten, I think we in Sint Maarten, I think we still see HR as something transactional, as in comparison to in the Netherlands, where things are a bit more progressive. And that goes from labor law down to just how jobs are posted or how people attract people to get jobs here. I think like that's one of the things that we have to move away from. In the island part, I think that they still think like, people just want a job. I think that that's where we're still employers are still in the mindset of, I just need somebody to do this job. And people are still in the mindset of, I need a job, when it's a two thing of like, I have talents, I have skills that I can contribute. And also you're, as an employer, as a business owner, you're also looking at why somebody would want to work here. So I think we're still stuck there. And I think that I think development needs to happen in that area. Especially.
Yeah, in regards to marketing, I think that, as I mentioned, like marketing is a very fast-paced environment. And I'm honestly, like I've worked in the Netherlands and, this is where I've learned a lot about marketing in general. And of course, I've never worked in Sint Maarten within my field, so I'm definitely just an outsider looking in. But what I can say is that like marketing is a very fast-paced environment. And I feel like we're a bit behind in a lot of cases. And that's not only the fault of marketeers or anything on the island. It just also has to do with kind of the holistic business environment. But I think that's definitely something that we can improve on, in the sense that, and it will benefit us a lot if we just get with the times, in a sense, within the marketing field. As well as I feel like, tourism is a very strong factor in Sint Maarten. And I think that the way Sint Maarten is portrayed sometimes is not exactly what Sint Maarten represents. And what I mean by this is, don't get me wrong, there are definitely marketing campaigns where you see the culture of Sint Maarten, you see the people of Sint Maarten. But when you look at it from a very broad perspective and you look at the vast majority, to be quite honest, the people and the things that are being shown of Sint Maarten doesn't, in my opinion, necessarily represent Sint Maarten. So if I can be quite blunt, a lot of the commercials very much just have white people and very much just have like more so the prestige areas of Sint Maarten, where it's like, kind of basically trying to portray a certain image that Sint Maarten is not. Of course, not saying that this isn't a part of Sint Maarten, but I mean, as in there's so much more to the island that I feel like should be shown in our marketing, especially in tourism, because we have such a rich culture and a beautiful environment. And I feel like that should be portrayed in the marketing of Sint Maarten. But other than that, like, of course, outside of the tourism sector, I definitely just think it's more so with getting with the current times of marketing.
That is very true. And like, I guess from your guys' perspective, what questions would you have from each sector that you think, I guess, something in regards of like how our government or parliament functions that would be able to like address these certain issues to make sure these things are working well? Because at the end of the day, government is the biggest HR person that's there. Government is the one that's in charge of the tourist bureau. So like what, like, I guess, questions or what do you want to see from the government institutions that can help these fields improve to be better?
Right. I think like one of the things that could be helpful, which I know that they're also working on, is like flexibilization, of the labor law. So flexibilization can happen like different ways, but I think like right now, for instance, I think one of the main things coming from like an employer side or a businessman side or businesswoman side, it's like it takes, like if you were to, let's say in a situation where we had the pandemic, for instance, or when we had Hurricane Irma, a lot of people lost their businesses or had to like close their businesses, and that involves laying off people. But that can be a very strenuous and long process, especially when the whole country is basically in chaos. So imagine that you have 5 people, you don't have 5 employees, you don't have any income to be able to pay them, and you need to lay them off. That's such a long process. You know what I mean? Like you would maybe need to go to the labor office. You maybe would need to file for bankruptcy. And then that's a whole legal situation that you need to go through. Like, I think there needs to be more attention considering the different situations the country has been in, to be a bit more flexible where certain things are concerned, because we have such an economy that, experiences shocks. Also, I think one of the things that would also be helpful, which I think they're also working on, is like increasing the minimum wage. I think by doing that, of course, from an employer perspective, you want to be competitive, and it's up to you to be competitive and not only offer a salary that's the minimum wage, of course. But I think that would also help to demonstrate or set the example for local employers to say, hey, this is where we are now. I know for a long time we've been at this level, but this is where we are now. And of course, this is not where that's the minimum wage. And of course, we expect you to be more competitive and pay your people well, but this is where we need to be for people to be able to live. And I think that would help. I think that would help so much for people coming to work, employees coming to work. I think that would also, employers would get the best out of their employees that way as well, because of like what people have experienced in the last 5 to 6 years. So those are the two main things. There are other things, but I think from legislatively, or what government or parliament could do, I think those things, looking at flexibilization and also like the minimum wage, and really keeping up to date on, what the cost of living is and stuff like that, would help a lot of people in that way.
Yeah, because if you think about it, imagine trying to live in Sint Maarten as an adult, making $7 and all.
Exactly. And a lot of people also, you have to think about it as well. Like a lot of people have jobs here where if you were to compare the job that they're doing here to what somebody's doing somewhere else or in another island, they'd probably be paid more, or you know what I mean? And that I don't think is considered a lot, like that people's skills are worth something, or that their degrees are worth something. And I think that's also a fear that students have coming back here. Like, hey, I spent 4 years doing this degree. Of course, I want to go home. I want to contribute, but I also know the worth of my skills. I know the worth of my degree. And I don't think that Sint Maarten is a place that I can get a reward for that. And that's not only financial, that's also intrinsic. Like, what work am I going to be doing that I know that I'm adding value? I think that's a lot, especially for my generation. We don't only want to come to work and, get paid. We want to know that the work that we're doing is adding value. You know what I mean? Can you imagine that you're working every day, or you're working on a project for a long time, and then, for instance, in Tori's case, where she was working in, or somebody who's working in marketing, for instance, they're working on a campaign for a long time, and then the campaign never happens. Can you imagine how you feel about that? Like, imagine that you have another project or another campaign to do. You're not motivated. So those are the things that I think we need to start looking at, instead of things just being transactional, that I just need an employee to do this job and I'm paying you this. I think we need to look a bit more comprehensively. And I think that that's what we could really do, or I wouldn't say we, but government and parliament could do, to look at a more comprehensive way about our labor laws and things that would improve the standard of living as well.
Yeah, Tori?
Yeah, so I think in regards to marketing, I feel like in general, it would be nice if digitalization was taken more seriously, and not saying that they aren't taking it seriously, and it's not only the fault of, for example, not doing so, because also things like Sint Maarten's Wi-Fi is a big contributor, for example. You know what I mean? There's a lot of factors involved in this that make it quite difficult. But I think we are in a digital world now, and I feel like we're a bit behind where that is concerned. And I feel like if the government were to help and contribute to creating a more digital environment, it will also in the end help the marketing of Sint Maarten. And if I say, for example, with the, like, as I mentioned, with the tourism, I definitely think that there needs to be a shift in conversation with regard to what Sint Maarten wants to be seen as and portrayed as. Because if we're, for example, if you say, like, with the marketing now, right, it's not exactly giving a true representation of who Sint Maarten is, what Sint Maarten is. And when people come, they're seeing something completely different than what they're being advertised to. So it's not only of, I think the conversation needs to be changed to what do we think people want to see, instead of, and change it to, like, what should people be saying, because this is what Sint Maarten is. You know what I mean? And I feel like also Sint Maarten has so much to offer. And I feel like that's something that we kind of don't really show as much. And I feel like that's something that really needs to just be portrayed. And also, I think that if we do, for example, do so, it should definitely be with, how do I say that? With a variety of, like kind of like the culture, but also like the touristic side of things. So for example, like jet skiing and kayaking and all that stuff, but, you know, also showing who we are and what we represent. And yeah, that's basically what I think.
And then, well, I know the answer to this question, but still, like, at the end of the day, do you feel like a lot of our issues fall under that we don't collect enough data, and for the data that we do have, we don't use it and implement it to make things better?
Yeah, I feel like we're both.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's like I was gonna talk about that, but I was like, I'm just not gonna stop talking about that. So I'm like, let me not even mention it.
No, but you can start talking about it. Like, you can start talking about it.
I wanted to actually agree with Tori's digitalization. I was like, that was at the back of my head as well. But I was like, I don't want to go into that either. But I think digitalization as a whole would help every sector. Let's just put it that way. I don't even think it's just human resources or marketing. I think it had helped overall. So I think like that's something definitely that we could, if there could be investment made into our infrastructure, I think that would just help a lot of things for a lot in different sectors in general. Yeah. But as you were saying, Tori.
No, I completely agree. And I think that we definitely need to look into like more, instead of thinking, oh, this is what I think would be a good idea, actually having data to back it up. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of the conversation is, oh, this is what people been liking for years, so this is what we're gonna do because this is what has worked for years. Exactly. And then more, think times are changing. You know, people want to be targeted correctly. You know what I mean? And what that needs is data, like to better understand people. You know.
And I think it's not only what the people have been liking. Sometimes it's just a person in a place of power. Like, I think this is a great idea because I talked to 2 of my cousins and they said it was a great idea. Exactly. So I'm in a place of power and I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? So I think it's also that. And I think like, as I said, what Tori mentioned, it's like, it doesn't have to only be in our sector or the sectors that we're talking about. It could be beneficial. Like, for instance, if we're doing, for instance, I don't know how much, for instance, how many millennials do we have living in Sint Maarten? That data is not only beneficial to somebody running a business or going to open up a business, but that's the information that's just needed for everybody. Because what if you want to open up a business targeted specifically for millennials? Or let's say you want to open up a restaurant and you want a certain vibe at that restaurant. You want to know, okay, are there only 3 millennials here? Or are there 50? You know what I mean? Or are there 100? And that's what I'm saying, of just like, the things that we're talking about is not only applicable to us or just human resources or marketing. This information could be like readily available in like, I would say our census. I think that's also coming up. I think if we did more surveys or more targeted data collection, it would be better for us. And I think that we don't think it's important because we know everybody. We think we know everybody's, sorry to say it in that accent, but like we think we know everybody's point of view or perspective, and we don't. And I think that also like the demographics are changing. You know, the people that lived here once upon a time that we knew or what we thought we knew that their perspective is are, sorry to say, dying. You know what I mean? What are we going to do? We shouldn't even be thinking about Gen Z, like where we just entered the labor for the workforce or the labor market. What about the people before us, you know, like, or after us in that regard? You know what I mean? Are we doing research on those people, what they are interested in, or what fields they think we're going to need for the future? I think that those are the type of things that we're not paying attention to or not being paid attention to in the Caribbean part of Sint Maarten. And not the Caribbean of Sint Maarten, sorry, the Caribbean part of the kingdom. I think that those are the things that we're not paying attention to. And I think that if we don't, it's really going to be to our detriment. And we really don't have an excuse anymore not to do it. You know what I mean? We have so much tools to be able to do it that it really is going to be to our detriment if we don't wake up and like pick up the ball.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I think because we're just so small in nature, we're so used to everybody my cousin. While that is still true,
right?
The next person is not your cousin because they came here like 10 years ago and you don't really know them because you only talk to your cousin and you're not really talking to your other neighbors like you used to 40 years ago when you were growing up in town. Like, times have changed so dramatically and so drastically. And it's interesting to see that people are not understanding that we need to go digital. And I guess it doesn't help that the people who are going digital are not, I guess they're doing it in a how to not be rude
way.
Like, I feel like we're going full into like crazy things like, let's make my salary into Bitcoin Cash, you know, like crazy forms of digitalization, instead of maybe we should create a system that domain affairs and the tax office are on the same thing, so they don't have to wait 10 days to have an answer from the tax office to approve somebody to get land. I feel like we're not focusing on that. They're just focusing on the big things when we have simple issues. Like, somebody should not have to be still opening a drawer to like pull out some type of documents. This should all be on a safe and secure system, first of all, because we're like GB still not back up. So
yeah,
it's I don't know. I don't see us focusing on the right things. And the question in my head is like, how do we convince these people that we need to focus on the right things? You know what I mean?
Well, to be honest, I think a big part of it is no matter how much we convince or try to convince, the reality is it's going to hit when there's going to be no other choice. You know what I mean? Like, when things really start to hit the fan, it's going to be like, okay, now we really need to like get active and start to do things. And that's the problem. I feel like everybody is very reactive instead of proactive. So, and that's just like, I feel like not the Caribbean, but Sint Maarten's environment in general, it's just a very reactive environment. And if we were more proactive, I feel like instead of like doing damage control, we could actually like, you know, prevent the problem in the first place. If I'm just speaking in a broad like sense, you know what I mean?
I agree. I completely agree. And I think not only being proactive, but doing it in a systematic way. Like, in order for us to be a digitalized nation, we need to have proper infrastructure first. We can't skip to Bitcoin. You understand what I'm trying to say? Our internet needs to work properly for this digitization or what we want to do, you know? And then we can, you know, when our infrastructure works, then we can start thinking about, okay, how do we get our elderly people to also be online? I think like we're doing things in a very ad hoc, all over the place way. And not only are we not being proactive, but we're doing it all over the place. You know what I mean? And that does not help the situation. You know what I mean? Like, I think there needs to be a plan of like, what do we want? And what is the outcome that we want? And then work towards that outcome in a systematic way. I think that just doing things all over the place has not been effective for us at all.
100%. That is very true.
I agree. And I guess I wonder if it like falls under the whole that's just how we are, because we never really been a structured society. We never really and so now for I guess 12 years in being our country, and you have so much expectations, and you have more people than you had when you actually start doing your own governance over 40, 50 years ago. And I guess people are not willing to confine to some type of structure, to some type of system. Because if you think about it, we're a very willy-nilly type of people. Oh, I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't see the problem. Why do I need to change? Type of people. And I think that's also harming our progress in regards to how we do things. Because I feel like if we digitalize, we got things, all our systems are smoother, and then you start improving the different areas because your systems are smoother. But I don't think
crying when we cannot get back online or we can't find things in the midst of a hurricane.
Yep.
We're also not I you have to be just plain and blunt about it. It's you know what I mean? I wasn't here when Irma happened, but I know that it took some time, for instance, for you to be able to go and pay your taxes, for instance. It must be because the government building wasn't open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But imagine if we were a couple of years back, started working on a platform to be able to pay our taxes online or even just interact with government online. We would not been crying. You know what I mean? And remember, when people aren't paying their taxes, what happens? Government revenue goes down. When government revenue goes down, what happens? You know what I mean?
Nothing can work.
Exactly. It's a domino effect. It's not just oh, we're going to invest in this and we're not going to get a return on investment. You will get a return on investment by being proactive and putting these things in place. And we won't be crying our eyes out when we don't have, or when, we gotta go somewhere else to borrow. We won't be in that situation. And I think if we saw it like that, or the people in the places of power saw it like that, we'd be in a different place. We'd be in a different place.
Yeah, 100%.
That is very true.
I feel like everybody chooses comfortability rather than actual progress, and it's been detrimental to Sint Maarten as a whole.
I agree. And so as we, talk about lack of progress or thereof, I guess this wraps into my final main question. So I guess, do you see yourself returning home in the near or distant future and, be able to contribute to some type of improvements? And then I guess, Nian, you touched on it earlier. So, we're talking about why so many professionals aren't returning home. But what can we do to ensure we have that retention among young professionals that come home?
I feel like I'm going to answer the last question first, then
okay.
Returning home. But I think one of the things that we don't do that I've seen other islands do is keep in contact with people that leave. And I mean, young people that leave high school, or even people that have been away forever. You know what I mean? I think sometimes I would read the newspaper or the news online and I would see, oh, this person is a boxer and they just they won a championship. I never knew Sint Maarten had boxers, and imagine if we were to keep in contact with these different people, not only, these are professionals in their own right. I think that would help so much, that we knew where our people were. And that in turn would help in a long-term plan of retention. And if we needed certain help, or if we lacked in a certain area, if we had that data, let's get back to what we said, if we had that data of where people are and who they are, we'd know where we're lacking. A big thing that we're lacking right now is legislative lawyers. Do we have any out there? Do we know? We don't. So I think that's one of the things we can start doing. I think would be helpful in retention, or just keep or even just getting retention and just getting people to return, because we need it.
That's true, Tori.
Yeah, and I'm gonna answer the question regarding whether I would come back home to contribute. I definitely say I would, but the kind of like similar to like backing on what Nian said, what's holding me back is the fact that if I were to come back home, I feel like there wouldn't be much space for me, especially with regard to the type of marketing that's being done on Sint Maarten right now. Like I'm learning in a very digitally based environment. You know what I mean? And if I go back home, a lot of things that they're doing is honestly stuff that I probably haven't even like, not necessarily that I didn't learn, but more so things that aren't really in line with what I would want to do, if that makes sense. So I would definitely say I want to return in the future to try and like help and assist in changing these things. But I also have a fear of being told that I'm overqualified, for example. You know what I mean? Because that's also an issue that I noticed like a lot of students are having or have had in the past, where they'll be turned away because, you know, they're being told that they're overqualified for positions on the island. So yeah.
The famous overqualified. I don't know. But yeah, you was gonna say something, Nian?
Yeah, like going, I think that's a similar answer to my answer to that question is similar to Tori's. Like I would like to return at some point to change the things that I'm talking about on my level that I can change. But I think you can be anywhere and contribute. I think that's one thing that, you know, I think that we're always having a conversation of like coming back home and contributing, but I feel like you can be anywhere and contribute to, you know, the development of the island. And I definitely agree with Tori in regards to being overqualified. Like I had interviews with people, not people, but businesses locally. And not only was I told I was overqualified, sometimes I would not even get back a call or like how my interview went or anything like that. And that contributes to like, going back to what I said earlier about like the person's experience or an employee's experience or a candidate's experience, like we still think on the island that something is transactional. Okay, I didn't call you back. That obviously means that I didn't want you to work for me, but I don't know that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I feel like we're still in that phase of things, and definitely I could help to change that. But there's a lot of things that need to change on a higher level that I believe need to be changed or advanced before I come back and do add to that development. And that's not in a negative way, but I just feel like where we are right now, we're still very much in a very weird spot as a country. You know, we came from a hurricane into a pandemic. People are still not sure if they're, you know, keeping their businesses open. People are afraid. And, you know, it's a really weird spot. You know what I mean? And of course, the question wasn't about coming back now, but I feel like it's going to take us time to get out of this weird spot for things to be normal again. You know what I mean? We were just coming out of Hurricane Irma and getting normal, some semblance of normalcy. And then the pandemic happened and people just lost it again. You know what I mean? And that's going to take, and because we are where we are in our development, so digitalization, any aspect of our development, just because of where we are, it's going to take us longer to get back to normalcy. So I think like, I don't want to say I want to come when things are normal or things are good, but I would like to say, I would like to come back in a stage where we're a bit more ready for change. We're a bit more ready or understanding of like the shocks that can happen to our island. And I think that jumping in at that phase would be more helpful than now where we're a bit on edge or uneasy and not sure about the future. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Like it makes a lot of sense because I think that's where a lot of people are focusing on right now. Yeah. But that's one of the country's main problem is that they expect us to be that making it to the position for people to come back, which I feel like that shouldn't be our case. I feel like as people who are classified as Gen Z and younger millennials, I feel like systems should have been in place centuries ago, decades ago, for it to, you know,
for the baton
we can go,
to the next.
The baton so we pass on so we can improve. Right now, we only have one brick on the foundation and they want us to go go suck a garden, want us to go suck a garden and mix the concrete so we could build it. No, I want me to just come and paint a wall. Like, I don't need to go pour concrete.
Exactly.
The expectation, like when, you know, the next generation comes, they're not expecting to paint walls. You know, they're expecting to put solar panels. They're expecting to be able to, the house to move from Sucker Garden to Cold Bay. Like, you understand what I mean? They too are not expecting to paint walls, and they shouldn't. And I think it makes us sound sometimes like we're selfish or like we're being, you know, like we have a high standard. But I think like it's only fair. You know what I mean? I think it's only fair considering the work that, you know, those before us put in, you know? I think it's only fair.
Yeah, because you can't be going around saying, yeah, I do this, my father do this, my grandfather do this, and I'm just here like, you did all of this, but I still have to come and do more. Like, I feel like that's not something. I feel like we should be at the point that we're like, yeah, we're going to make a change, we're going to make a difference, but we should be at a higher level already so we can just continue getting better. But we're currently at bad. And I'm not trying to make us good.
And that's another thing. There has to be a willingness to change. Like, I feel like right now it's more so this is just how it is. This is the policy. Take it or leave it. And like, that's just not an environment that I feel like we in general as Gen Z and millennials want to be in. You know what I mean? I feel like we are
to be in that type of environment.
Exactly.
We don't learn change management for nothing.
Exactly.
We don't learn change management for nothing.
Yeah. So it's definitely a clash. Like, if I enter an environment where conversations are being had, where this is just the way it is and there's no option for change, yeah, it's not exactly motivating to be in. Not saying that this is the case for all situations in Sint Maarten, but I've definitely seen this be a repeated conversation. So, yeah.
I definitely agree with that.
And I think it doesn't help where we are currently politically, because we're in like, people want us to make changes, but then you're like, oh yeah, we need to make changes. And then you realize the changes they want to make is not actually beneficial, but we never thought about making changes beforehand. And so now they're watching us like, you never tried to make a change, now do this. And then, oh no, the light bulbs are going off. Like, oh, we should have probably been doing something how many years ago. And then it's fascinating to see it.
That's why it feels so difficult for us right now. You know what I mean? Because it just feels like we're getting body slammed by change. We're getting body slammed by change when this is a process of like, you know, change is ongoing. You know what I mean? And that's why we feel right now that we're being pushed to do it. We feel like we're being body slammed. We feel like, oh, this is out of our comfort zone. We actually I feel like to some people, we feel like it's abuse. We genuinely feel like it's abuse. Like, I feel like I'm being like, certain people feel like I am being abused right now. And it's like, and when you really break it down, or if you were to really break it down, you're not being abused. It's not the worst thing in the world. And if we looked at it and looked at like what benefits it could bring, everybody can find themselves in some part of the change. It may not be everything. You're not asking everybody to be on board for everything, but you can find yourself in some part of it because it affects you. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's where we are. And that's why I said what I said. Like, I just don't feel that right now. And for a while, I don't know when we're going to get out of this kind of on edge type of thing, but we need to get to some pace of normalcy before all that new change comes in.
I agree. And my answer is, if you pay me, come in.
That's another one.
That's another one. That was a word. That was a word.
That was a word. Yeah.
Let us. I guess that should be the quote. If you pay me come. I don't care if you like, but you can live in your grandmother's house. Yes, but if you pay me come in, because I know food in cost you less and Carrefour expensive.
Exactly.
Better be paying good. Very good. In fact.
Very good.
Very good.
I would like very good pay.
Very good.
Thank you. Because guess what? We also have loans to pay.
So I think they forget. I think people forget. I think people forget Like they
And the crazy thing is, my loan is going back to the government of Sint Maarten. So at least pay me some money so I could contribute back. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you could develop and mold the future generations. But how you gonna expect me to pay me back if you pay me like a piece of Gouda
what's the
cheese?
current minimum wage? Isn't it like $4 and something?
Like $4, yeah?
$4 and something. That's just some context.
And the fact that the cost of living in St. Maarten is literally, for example, even more than Europe, just goes to show how problematic that is. And like rent in St. Maarten, like food in St. Maarten, very, very expensive. And minimum wages at that. And how long has it been at that? For years and years and years? That ain't even right. That ain't even normal.
Right? And people probably are listening to us and be like, "This is all about money," but it is. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to sit here and say I won't do a job because I'm interested in my field or it's a good project or I won't be involved. Like there's times where I've sacrificed money for just being interested in a project or a job. But I can't eat the project, hun.
That's the one.
Project, hun. I can't put the project in my car, babe. I can't do that. Carrefour does not accept the project, hun. One.
No, I'd be like, oh my God, look, this is what I did for the country. And the cashier gonna be like, where with card? And I can just be like,
it's gonna be like,
you see,
Visa or MasterCard or Maestro. But the project, Visa or Master, like I feel like the cashier would even get aggressive with me. I'm like, I guess I'm waiting time right now, right?
Passion don't pay the bills. Passion do not pay
the bills. Does it help making like what you want to do fun? Yes. Does it keep GB on at night? No. So, and I think that's the next thing. I guess this is just me on that rant. No, I think that's the next thing where you have a lot of older people. They just look at us and be like, oh my God, you guys are gonna do this and save the country and blah 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 blah. And these are things I've been thinking about for years. I was like, if you've been thinking about for years, why don't you do it? But then it's just like, yeah, we're gonna do all of this saving, like pointing to our generation and generations after us. And I'm just like,
whole time you just trying to have a soft life.
Yeah.
You just trying to have a soft life.
Like, I just want to like go down on a Friday night, probably get some abugazi and go home and sleep. Like, what do you mean that I need to change the nation?
It gives like the whole time you're saying that, I'm thinking of like a cape. We're flying from Cold Bay to Kukukoy. We're going in the sky. Whole time you just want a soft life. You just want to go to the beach on Sunday, pick up a little groceries, go home. You know, like, live a soft life.
All I want to do is eat some guinea from the tree. Like, I feel like it's so. And then putting all of these pressure on people, then you feel that you're compelled that you have to do something. And then that's where the frustration comes from, because it's like they want you to do this, but then they don't provide the space for you to come in with new ideas and new initiatives and new things to actually make it better.
Exactly.
Because they want you to do things in the same either corrupt way, one, or the same like inefficient way that has us stagnant in that situation in the first place. And people are stubborn people, I get it, yes, but it has to be some way to just knock on somebody's head and be like, yo, this is what you have to do, you know. But I don't know how to do it. It's like because I don't like talking to people.
Yeah, go, sorry.
Yeah. No, and I feel like it's definitely like a huge generational gap, because I feel like the older generation, it was very focused on just do your job, doesn't matter what job you do, just pay the bills. You know what I mean? And us, we're like balanced life, soft life. We want to experience like enjoyment while also enjoying our job and also getting paid for what we're worth. And, you know, I feel like in the older generation, it was more so as long as we pay the bills and we can provide, it's cool. That's what matters. And that don't really work for us. You know what I mean? And on top of that, being told that we can't, like the stubbornness and the lack of change is like, that also don't really work for us. So it's kind of like, if you want more people to come and like, you know, be a part of society and somehow to come back, these things kind of have to change. And like Cam said, no idea how that's going to happen or how that's going to work. But there's got to be a way. Like there's got to be something. Something got to click.
Right. And it's also just like all your life, you're hearing like people around you. And, you know, when you meet up someone, you're going to school, right? Stay in school now. Stay in school. Do what you got to do. I'm sorry to run to the accent, right? You stay in school. You do what you got to do. Then you come out and be like, so can I have a job now? You mean a job here? You mean my job? Oh, no, babe. I'm just like, you said stay in school. You said I'm going to get a job.
The one thing they can tell you is stay in school.
You sold me these policies. You sold me them. So I'm now asking you the job. And they're looking back at you be like, not my job that I've been in since 1990. Not my job that I've been in since when? No, you're not my job. Maybe somebody else's job, but not my job.
That's one.
And when you get through the door let's say you do get to the door and you do get a job, and you'd be like, I think we should change this, or this is a great idea. Wrong place. Not here. Not here. Maybe in Harlem. But you know what I mean? So it's just like, that's literally the rhetoric you're hearing. So I'm just like, okay. Okay.
And a large problem, we don't have the funds, we don't have the resources. But then once again, that also backlogs to like just the whole way of like the systematic way of Sint Maarten. Like it's like there's it's like a kind of like a domino effect, basically. Like
and we're finding resources. We're finding resources for weird things. Let's put that on top of the other thing. We're finding resources for the wrong things. I wouldn't mind if we said we don't have resources because we're putting everything into this project, which is having this great return on investment right now, and we want a bigger return on investment. But the wrong things with no return on investment.
You know what we put in our resources, and this is not even physical resources what I'm talking about. You know what we put in our emotional and mental resources into things as like the flag there on Kobe Hill. We would argue about the flag not being up on Kobe Hill. Quarrel, have teachers calling, but they crying, but they wanted to carry their students up there so they could have learned. You know, you could go on google.com and print out a flag.
That's the one.
You know, you could go in a shop and get a flag just like that in the back of it. You could carry a flag with you on the hill.
That's
like, you know, but when something important comes to, the curriculum itself, how can we help retain our students? Like retention for our students, make sure they're learning and not stress about the FBE exam that students have historically done negative on year after year after year because it's unnecessarily difficult and none of the school's curriculum actually fit to do the FBE, and nobody actually wants to do a proper data and resources on how to fix the FBE. Instead of doing that, we arguing about a flag. A flag that will get mashed up because the wind high on Kobe Hill half of the year.
That was drag, ladies and gentlemen.
It was very much a drag. But it's facts. Like, it's always short-term changes instead of long-term changes, or like unnecessary changes instead of the real essential things. Like, prime example, the roads on Sint Maarten, we patching them up, but we're not coming to the resource as to why Sint Maarten keep getting so many potholes. Maybe we need to change the material. Now, I don't know nothing about roads, but if you just change something or make it a higher quality in the long term, you're spending less money, you're wasting less time, road fix for years, you know what I'm saying? But no, instead we drop a little concrete inside it or whatever material inside of the hole. Shoot, sometimes it's not even government, it's just other people doing it. And then what happens? It rains, pothole back. You know what I mean?
Back again. Like, you know the crazy thing about roads? They find something. What you would never know is actually the new material, because every time they go fix the road is a photo op and not the actual, you're not actually seeing the road fix. You're just seeing the people that signed the paper so you could fix the road in the picture. And I'm just here like, again, that footage storage you had on your phone could have been used to detect other issues in the road.
Exactly. I can't say I disagree with the drags. Like, I'm just listening to the drags right now. The drags are great. Like, y'all literally dragging people by their scalps. You understand what I mean? Scalp.
I'm just saying, like, if we would just put our resources in a way, energy and our time into things that could help us, we would have been so much better, because all the time we do things about quarreling, like, for example, another example, every time we've been quarreling about the airport and calling this meeting and calling that meeting and calling this, and this is a setup.
The amount of meetings that we call about tourism or airport or economic, anything to do with like economic, whatever, I'd like to see that be called as much meeting called about education. What about special needs children? What about tertiary education? Maybe we wouldn't have to spend so much on study finance if we actually invested in our university, which we've had for a very long time. If we actually
exactly, you know how much people ask me up here, they're like, you don't have a university back home? I'd be like, you want me to go where? USM to study what?
And the thing is, people get upset when you say something like that, but it's the truth. Like, we don't have, like, yes, I'm giving my hats off to the university. It has made steps in recent years, but we need different things. How are we going to be accredited? Like, is there actual law for tertiary education? Those things need to be sorted, because to be fair, in these economic times, as much as people want to go to another country and have an abroad experience, people would stay home and study if they had to.
Hell yeah, I would. You think I want to be in a cold country?
Listen to me. I would be at home. Eating off.
And you know what's the benefits of being home and the benefits of being home to study is that I don't have to pay rent.
You don't have to pay rent.
All these expensive, all this debt. If I could have just stayed in Sint Maarten, I would have never left. Like, that's the thing, we're saying all these things because we love Sint Maarten and we're so passionate about Sint Maarten. We want to see Sint Maarten improve. You know what I'm saying? And if it was the case, we would have all been there. We would have gone to school together. Shoot.
Listen,
it would have went from a St. Dominic to a USM pipeline. Like, we would have been the first man at the door.
I would have done 8 degrees by now. Like, I'd just be doing it for fun. I'd just be doing it for fun. Like, work. Like, I'd probably be on my 3rd PhD by now. I'm like, I'm home. I get to go to the beach on Sunday. I get to eat my mom's food.
Literally soft life.
I don't have to make I don't have to buy seasonal clothing. I don't have to have people in a foreign country ask me why I'm in their country. I see a lot of benefits here. I see a lot of benefits.
A lot of benefits.
So many.
And then the thing is, like, it's just crazy to me that, like, these, as I said, like, if we would do things systematically, we would be in a different space, man. We would be in a different space. And this is what I'm saying about, like, I think we're worried about things that don't need to be worried about. I can understand if we had, we did everything, or if we've done a majority of things and we start picking at the small things. Oh, the flagging on the hill. Oh, was our national song, well, that's important too, but you know what I mean? Like, the smaller things. I can understand if we had done the big things, had a better got a better infrastructure, we have better internet, people have jobs. I can imagine if we tackled those things and then we started nitpicking at the smaller things, I'll be like, all right, I get it. Like, we live in good. Let's nitpick at the smaller things. But we're nitpicking before we do the big things, guys. We're nitpicking before And that's all I gotta say on that one. Like, that's all I gotta say on that one.
It's true.
What a time to be alive. That's all I have to say.
We don't got it easy. And then they ask why we mad all the time. They be like, why you don't smile? I'm like, is there anything to smile about, sir? Is there? There's a war going on. An orange in the supermarket costs $10. What am I saying?
No, seriously. Stress. Just stress.
Like, I haven't fully bought groceries in a long time because, I'm transitioning out to, not live where I'm living right now. But anytime that I want to go pick up 2-3 something, why is my card $50? I am picking up 4 things. 4 things. Why is it $50 for me to get some ground turkey, some vegetables, some seasoning vegetables, some vegetables for me to eat, and a starch? 50 United States Joseph Robinette Biden dollars.
Let me tell you something, right? I completely feel you because the other day I went to get a broccoli and I almost dropped to the ground because the broccoli I used to pay for was 40 to 30 cents, 30 to 40 cents. Why I buy it and it was 2.50? How did broccoli go from 30 to 40 cents to €2.50? I normally I could get groceries for like 20. You know what I mean? 20 euros. Why am I paying 35 now? What is going on?
And then they ask us why we mad and like, back in my day, like if anybody started off this story with back in my day, I already lost the plot because I'm like, I am here in this day.
And back in your day, there was less inflation. So, hello.
Thank you.
I'm just like, we talking about
back in your day.
My day.
It always cracked me up when my father be like, you know, we used to get like sweet bread for like a gilda 25 cents. A gilda 25 cents. You know what is that? That was like 10 cents US for a sweet bread.
Mad.
No, you're going Carlin. So for some sweet bread, you paid $6-7 for a packet of sweet bread.
And they want to know why we stressed. And I'm like, listen, there's nothing to smile about. There's nothing, like, I just want to go where I'm going or home. Like the in-between. Like
now this turning into a rant about just how everything is expensive.
To the topic, like Gen Z is living the nightmare. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
but no, and it relates to it too because this is why we need to be paid good to go back home. Life expensive, and we like to live lavish. So
it's not even. I feel like even when you're being frugal,
it's still expensive.
Still,
like sometimes I buy. Yeah. Sometimes I try to buy like restaurant brand stuff. No, like even when I buy like the name, like not the restaurant, the supermarket brand stuff, some of those prices even went up.
Mm-hmm.
Like some great value sugar was like $1 something, is now up to like $2.
Literally,
like
you be frugal and still end up broke at the end of the month. Like how? Where?
I'm saying, like when you see you're being frugal and you still not making it. Like this relates to everything we've been like talking about for like probably the last hour. I'm like, something's not happening. We're missing. We're not connecting. Something's not connecting. Something's not meeting.
The plot is lost.
The plot is lost. Mm-hmm. And then in the midst of like Gen Z and whatever they're gonna call the generation that comes after us.
I think Gen Alpha.
Well, I think the Alpha generation. I think that's anybody after us. They expect us to wear the cape, paint the walls, move mountains, and pay $10 for an orange. I refuse.
They want you to pay $10 for an orange when it take you 3 days to make the $10.
That's the one. That's the one.
A sermon, a word right there. And that's what I'm saying. Like it goes back to everything that we're saying. Like, you know, this is not like, I understand the world went through a pandemic, the world, not just us, you know what I mean? But I feel like we really got to not only be proactive, but we got to get creative. We really got to get our grind going of how we're going to make this place better because the traditional methods are not going to work. We really need people in there that are change makers, people that have like out of box ideas of how we're going to move this place forward or every island in the kingdom forward. You understand what I'm saying? So I think like that is also like a broader like umbrella of like really what we need to do. Like it's not just legislation or it's not just everybody really that is in a current place of power and needs to really think out of the box because tomorrow or the future is going to be different from what we are dealing with today.
100%.
Really.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Even though we went on a little rant, guys, it all relates. It all relates. It all relates.
It just circle right back to the beginning.
Exactly.
To be better.
Be better. That's the quote for today. That's the quote for this podcast. Be better.
Be better.
Be better.
Be better.
And I guess from that, we can transition to our fun question of the day. And I know, Nian, you have some very, strong opinions on your answer for this question. So we're going to let you go last So the fun
I
question
was thinking
is,
first. Okay.
you know,
Right?
which beach on Sint Maarten you find is the best and why? So Tori, you go.
So I might sound crazy when I say this, but this is not for the beauty of it itself, but more so the practicality of it for me. And that would be DV. And the reason I say DV is simply because I like when I go DV, I have this thing, I have social anxiety. We know this, right? So if I walk in, I know when I go to DV, it just gonna be tourists. I'm not gonna run into nobody. I don't have to be social. And I can be, honestly, I can just be ugly on the beach. You know what I mean? And I enjoy that a lot. And also it's near my house, not that near, but it's near enough. You know what I mean? And thirdly, the guys there that work there, anytime I sit on the benches or the beach things, they mind their business. They don't make me pay. So I very much appreciate DV for that. You know what I mean? You could park if you have a car. I don't drive, so no. But you could park if you know how to. Very convenient environment. And I get it. It's not the most beautiful beach necessarily, but it just does it for me. Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one. My mom's favorite beach is DV, but I'm agree with you on that one. Them 3 points, you did your
she hit it.
You did the little station. You did it. What's your favorite, Cam?
My favorite beach. That's a good question. Okay, so I have a 2-part answer. So my favorite beach, in which I really, really appreciate, is actually Happy Bay. But of course, I'm not going to Happy Bay all the time because they lock the gate, and I'm not hiking from Fridays Bay over the hill every day that I want to Happy Bay. But I really like it because it's reserved, and it just gives that very serene vibe. It make me feel like I pay, thousands of dollars to come down on American Airlines and, lay down and stuff. You know what I mean? That whole Happy Bay make me feel. It make me feel nice. This one might be controversial, but I do enjoy Mullet Bay, but only between the hours of 7:00 and 9:30.
Listen,
anything else, once Mullet Bay start having people on it, is the worst beach in the world. But from 7 a.m. when it's me, the sun, and the fishes going in to the deep at 7 a.m., it's giving beauty. It's giving, trance. Me and my grandmother, mostly her, but sometimes, we take a walk on the beach. You see the sun rise from the east. It's giving the beach bar playing Lady Grace in the morning, so you're hearing the news at the same time. It's just giving you rise and shine type of waking up vibe. But if you let me go Mullet Bay and it's at 2:00, I can be maybe we should go somewhere else.
Yeah, I feel that.
Maybe we should try something different. Because one, everybody and their great aunt will be on Mullet Bay. And I don't like people.
No one can deny the beauty of Mullet. It's a very popular one. So it's a bit.
Yeah, I don't. So 7 a.m. is just me, my family. It was my grandparents or my parents, and the people who opening up the restaurant on the beach.
Amen.
And it's fine.
Amen.
And they come in, they see my grandfather, be like, hey, hey. And we just move on. We swim for 30 minutes. Go back home. That's just the beauty of it all.
That was controversial, but I think what Tori said is it's a popular beach. It's very popular.
Yeah.
For me, it is that little nook on the front side, Friars Bay. Friars Bay is nice. It just gives, even though people are on the beach, they mind their business. I don't know if it's the beach that makes them mind their business or whatever the whole correlation is, but they do. Nobody cares what you're wearing. You put your little blanket, you eat your little food, there's a little restaurant. It's giving. You know what I mean? It's giving. Friars Bay is just not everybody would, wake up in the morning and be like, I go in Friars Bay. No. It's a select few. I wouldn't say it's a select few, but it's just I like that beach, or everybody finds it as interesting as I do, or I like it. But whoever does, that's why I said we are select few, because that's where we be going. So I feel like that if you're able to be yourself, you're able to just relax as well. And it's not like you gotta there's options. You can buy a chair, you can't buy a chair. There's options like you can lay a little thing. Like there's options, and you can be yourself and be in the water. I feel like a lot of times when you go to the beach here, it's a performance. Sometimes you feel like, oh my God, do I look good? Do I not look good? Do I need to put on a cover up? Do I not need it? I feel like we just lost the whole sauce of going to the beach, of just going on the water and getting your head wet and enjoying yourself. So I feel like I'm able to do that at that beach. So yeah,
I agree. I feel like we've entered the era of that we have to wear swimsuits to the beach, and I don't like that era because I grew up going town beach. I a town girl. Hashtag town girl. I used to go in the water in a t-shirt and a short pants.
You see, you can't.
So why we can't do that? Why we got to go buy the most convoluted swimsuit and pose up on the sand to take pictures? Am I going to do it when I go home? Maybe, but I will also go to the beach in a short pants and a t-shirt as well.
But this is exactly like, listen, whatever other people do, it don't matter, because we gonna do what we want. And we're going to wear a t-shirt, because best believe I'm going to be wearing a t-shirt on the beach. You know what I'm saying? And I will also be that person taking pictures. I live the best of both worlds. You understand? Because,
I agree.
Baby, one thing about it, the t-shirt and the pants is a must. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is. It just hit different. So,
but it just makes the beach feel more like a beach.
Exactly. Like, you should go to the beach feeling comfortable. And that's what I mean. Like, I feel like really gone from just going to the beach and enjoying yourself to somebody might see me, so I'm gonna wear this. Like, no, wear what you want to wear, enjoy yourself, and have a great day. That's what it should be.
I agree. Oh, this is my controversial take. If you ask me, let me say about 11 years ago. How old I be? Okay, let's say about 12, 13 years ago, you asked me, like, what's that beach that you really, really enjoy? I would tell you Legalian.
I mean, yeah.
I feel like any child, like that's the
child. Any child. Yeah.
I feel like childhood beach, because it's so shallow and then you don't drown. But for me, as I got older, it's very much the seaweed. I was like, the seaweed.
Yeah, the seaweed. Like the seaweed got worse.
I don't know if it still has seaweed, but that was it for me as I got older. I just didn't like the seaweed.
Was that girl.
She was. But do people even swim there anymore? Like, I don't really hear nobody.
The last time I went to Legalian was September 2016 because our lovely gym teacher forced Fit Farm to plan all sporting activities for the high school, and we carried first form to beach day as 5A. That was the last time I went to Legalian. I remember that day. It was a strange day.
In a minute now. I just know it as a childhood beach. I also think of it as like the family picnic type of beach. When you have a lot of toddlers and stuff, like that's what I think about when I think about like Legalian. But I haven't been there for a long time.
Yeah, same.
Yep, that's true. But we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for talking with me. It was fun. I hope everyone has learned something, whether it was from our important conversation or were you going to the beach? And if you decide to go to the beach the same time I'm going to the beach, I will fight you, because do not come to Mullet Bay at 7 a.m. Thank you. Okay. With that being said, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any final words? Do you want people to know where to find you? If you don't want them to find you, that's also fine. But, any closing statements for the audience?
I think I have a closing statement for you. Thank you for having us. Anyway, thank you for having us to talk about this. I think that's really important because I think not a lot of people our age get to kind of voice like our perspective on things. So I think I'm really happy that you were able to have Tori and I on to share our perspective on our field. So thank you, Island Gal Thing. Thank you to you. So super big thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And literally exactly what Nian said. Like, I feel like it's a good conversation to have and a needed one.
Very much so.
All right. So with that being said, thank you for listening to season 2, episode 10 of the We Talking podcast. And we will see you next time. Bye.